Part 55. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 558. Nuan packed up the clothes Lu Yuang asked for, then went to Professor Ling's house opposite to get some things. When she rushed to the hotel room, Lu Yuang had already sent 5 messages and made 3 phone calls. I called you when you were out of class. Why did it take so long? Lu Yuang complained about Nuan's delay. Nuan twisted her body and looked shy. What did you do? Lu Yuang looked at Nuan suspiciously. The little girl deliberately acted shy, but her eyes were watery and her cheeks were pink, as if she had done something bad. Knowing that she was doing this on purpose just to get Lu Yuang to ask questions, Lu Yuang still couldn't help but ask questions suspiciously, and at the same time looked at Lu Chang'an, who looked normal. I didn't do anything, we just had a conversation and wasted some time. And Nuan clasped his hands together and tapped his 2 index fingers together, continuing to be coy. Just talking about conversation, Lu Yuang didn't believe it. Usually when Lu Yuang was working as a light bulb at home, the 2 of them would be intimate from time to time. When they had the chance to be alone in a room, they would talk to each other. Lie to your mother. Woolen cloth? Don't ask, you don't care so much about young people's love affairs, Professor Ling advised with a smile. Lu Chang'an kissed me for a long time, so he wasted time, and Nuan said quickly. When her mother really stops asking, and Nuan won't be able to take the initiative to show off how much Lu Chang'an likes her, and keep kissing her. After kissing her for a long time, I fell in love with her. Ouch, tisk tisk, are you shy or ashamed? Lu Yuang crossed his arms in disgust. When I was your age. Nuan and Professor Ling looked at her together. Lu Yuang was speechless for a moment and was speechless. What happened when you were my age? Nuan asked with a smile. Where are the clothes? Bring them here, you're talking so much, Lu Yuang said with a straight face, taking the old flower box from Nuan, and invited Professor Ling to enter the bedroom with him. Lu Chang'an turned around and glanced at Lu Yuang's back, and then Nuan pulled his head over. My mother bought various sizes of large, medium, and small boxes with a presbyopia pattern, saying that they would be used as wedding boxes for me in the future. Then she said that she would keep them even if she bought them now, so she used them for herself. Yes, Nuan sighed. These boxes are very expensive. Professor Lu usually wants to buy them, so he finds some high-sounding reasons that make him feel confident that he should buy them. I also have a very nice-looking box. It's made with excellent workmanship and has been used for many years with special maintenance methods. Lu Chang'an thought of his rattan book box, which is still stored downstairs. He has to find time to get it. Coming up, Shang Guandandan was living there now, and Lu Chang'an felt that it was a little uneasy to put the box where she was. That can be a family heirloom, and Nuan smiled slightly. Lu Chang'an was still very slow sometimes. For example, he had already talked about such an ambiguous topic as marriage just now, but he didn't take the opportunity to talk about love, making her blush and shy. Professor Lu and Professor Ling went to the bedroom to change clothes again, so that he could kiss her again while she blushed and her heart beat. Sure enough, after he had experienced this kind of kissing too much, he became less proactive in looking for opportunities. Speaking of family heirlooms, we have to talk about the National Jade Seal. This jade seal was ordered by heaven at this moment to have longevity and longevity. From its birth to its disappearance, it was found and disappeared again. After more than 2,000 years, it has actually changed. There are a lot of stones. Of course, the one in the official collection is not the jade seal passed down from the first generation. The one that Ying Zheng threw into Dongting Lake is actually still at the bottom of the lake. The one that was later passed down throughout the Han Dynasty has the longest history. This one party also has the highest historical value, and was lost by Li Kongke. Do you know where it is now? Lu Chang'an thought of something and said casually. It's in your hands, and Nuan gave him a look. Lu Chang'an's ability to talk casually was still the same. People wanted to tell him about the wedding box, but he got the imperial seal for you. You can't say it's in my hands. I just know where it is. Maybe it's still there, Lu Chang'an just said, without intending to verify whether it's really still there. After all, the jade seal is very playable. It's not big, and it's not as fun as a mobile phone. I can let Li Hongfang go look for it. Thinking of Li Hongfang, she has not heard from her since she went looking for along the river during the Qingming festival. She probably won't find it in a short time. Even if she does, she won't dare to take the first edition with her. Along the river during Qingming festival appeared. The people's hearts and livelihood are the real seal of inheritance, and Nuan commented casually. It's well said. When it comes to people's hearts and livelihoods, we need to move from slavery to feudalism. Stop it? Good. So Nuan and Lu Chang'an chatted about what to eat tonight. After chatting for a while, Professor Ling and Lu Yuwang walked out of the bedroom. Mom, you are so beautiful. Aunt Ling, you are too. You look so girly, and Nuan saw the clothes of the two elders and walked over in amazement. The two women were actually wearing Japanese-style female high school uniforms. Lu Yuwang was black and Professor Ling was white. The two people's original appearance has changed into that of girls, and the addition of these student uniforms adds to the girlish atmosphere. People are judged by their clothes. Even Professor Ling, who was relatively not that beautiful, had a shy smile that was a little more fragrant and fragrant. Lu Yuwang has a tall figure. After her figure shrunk, this uniform fit her better. It would not expose her waist when she moved around, but it restored a bit of her original quiet and elegant temperament. Lu Chang'an knew that this was the second episode of the two women's rebellion, and he was super jealous, so he didn't directly comment on good looking. As expected, Nuan glanced at Lu Chang'an and found that he was not staring at Professor Lu in particular, and then continued to praise with confidence, "What a beautiful JK uniform, the workmanship is so exquisite, the coat of arms and the tie are so elegant, where can I buy them?" "Ah! I bought 2 brand new sets on a second-hand platform. They were traded in the same city. The seller is a kind-hearted and cheerful girl. She was very happy to see us and gave us 2 pairs of socks. The uniform shoes were bought in the store downstairs." Lu Yuwang was a little bit. "Son is proud." "It's a bit shameful," Professor Ling said sheepishly. "It turns out you know it too." Lu Chang'an smiled, but he would not taunt him. Women, what they love most is to see their completely different selves blooming with different beauty. Otherwise, why would they always have one less piece of clothing, one less pair of shoes, and one less, lots and lots of stuff to dress yourself up? "But, where are you planning to hang out today?" And Nuan looked at them carefully, "But don't go to the internet cafe all night again. Later, you will make yourself stink, and Lu Chang'an will not be happy. We just plan to take a set of photos. I'm still embarrassed to wear these clothes." Professor Ling wanted to be rebellious and wanton, but after all, Nuan knew everyone's identities, and he had to maintain the dignity of the elders in the future. What's there to be embarrassed about? Compared with all kinds of hanfu and low skirts on the street, yours is not that high profile, and Nuan was relieved. It turned out that she just planned to take a set of photos so that she could recall her youthful appearance in the future. There were also many photos left back then, but the photos of their years recorded their youth more like pure memories and records of the times. They probably feel that they are the most beautiful when they are young. Today's portrait style and post-photography aesthetics are completely different from that era. Completely different, indistinguishable. Where are you going to shoot? Lu Chang'an thought of photographer Bai Hui. In the two-dimensional circle, anyone with a camera can be called a photographer. The requirements are not so strict. By Hui's familiarity with the equipment and post-production skills, I have probably surpassed the many people who buy a camera and call themselves photographers without even reading the manual, and start making plans to take photos. Just take pictures in the room. Lu Yuwang pointed around, then glanced at Lu Chang'an. You should also be able to take pictures, right? Lu Yuwang didn't mean anything else. She just asked. She felt that Lu Chang'an knew everything and could use a camera to shoot professionally like a professional photographer. It was probably not surprising. He's not good at taking photos, and Nuan said quickly, and suggested carefully, this is a rare opportunity for you, so you can't just find someone to deal with it. There are many photographers on various appointment apps now, so find someone in the same city who can come here. Female photographers, you should be more relaxed. She's right. Lu Chang'an saw En Nuan turn his eyes and quickly showed her a sincere expression from the bottom of his heart. En Nuan was very satisfied. En Nuan didn't want Lu Chang'an to take pictures of them. Why? When taking photos in short skirts, especially when not wearing safety pants, it is very common for photographers to be exposed in front of them. The photographer does not need to deliberately find an angle. They often accidentally expose themselves when posing. What's more, sometimes she would pose in seductive poses and look at the camera seductively. When Lu Chang'an was filming, he was not just looking at her through the camera, but also looking at her electric eyes. It's unacceptable, absolutely not allowed, and we must stop it. You don't need to worry about it. I just asked him if he has the skill. We have already appointed a photographer, Lu Yuwang said angrily, and then looked at Professor Ling with a look of look, this is his reaction. They looked at each other. When they were discussing this matter, they had already guessed En Nuan's reaction, knowing their daughter Emoruomua. Male or female, En Nuan felt relieved, but felt that it would be too direct to stop paying attention, so she asked one more question. Female. Then you go ahead and shoot. Lu Chang'an and I will go for a walk. Call us after you finish the shoot. En Nuan was going to play with Lu Chang'an. You stay with us. Lu Yuwang pulled En Nuan over. En Nuan pouted and looked at Lu Chang'an, but he didn't even try to win over her. You should stay here to prevent them from running around after filming, Lu Chang'an warned. En Nuan nodded obediently, although Lu Chang'an did not show reluctance at this time, and then expressed his hesitation, sadness, and painstaking decision in a serious way, telling her that if their love lasts for a long time, how can they be together day and night? Mew, the memory of Mother and Professor Ling's youth is even more rare. It would be better to hug and kiss her, and then give her an ambiguous look to say goodbye without saying anything. After Lu Chang'an finished speaking, he took an orange on the table, peeled it and walked out. As an author with no reputation, I dare not ask for monthly votes at the end of the chapter on my birthday, so I would like to mention it in this hidden place and give some monthly votes. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 559. Lu Chang'an actually has a certain interest in photography. After all, it is an artistic creation method that has just been born. Lu Chang'an doesn't care whether the development of photography can replace certain categories in painting, or whether there are some controversial opinions in the development process. As long as it's fun, the rest has nothing to do with him. In fact, there are not many photography opportunities for beautiful girls like Lu Yuwang to serve as models. Many photographers like to shoot beautiful girls. Apart from men's preferences, one very important thing is that many scenes and imagined atmospheres need to be only such a beautiful girl can express herself perfectly. To put it simply, it is easier to create beautiful works, and even a lot of time and steps can be saved in the later stage. When Lu Chang'an walked out of the door, he thought that he could buy a camera to play with. After all, he had a girlfriend like En Nuan. It would be a waste of time to not make full use of such a perfect photographic object, and most girls really like the feeling of having the camera pointed at them. What's more, I can take private photos of En Nuan in the future. Private photos do not mean that they are related to erotica. In fact, they just show private life conditions, such as various image styles that are completely different from ordinary times when you are alone. Real. Lu Chang'an opened the door and walked out, and saw Zhu Huntang looking furtively in the elevator area. Seeing Lu Chang'an's eyes staring at him, Zhu Huntang walked past him nervously, while muttering, "I am a BAA that passes by quietly and can be invisible. No one will find me, no one." Fairy sheep. Lu Chang'an reached out and grabbed her head. Zhu Huntang stopped with a frown on his face. He always felt that he had been particularly unlucky recently. Lu Chang'an would easily catch him if he did anything bad. "What are you doing here?" Lu Chang'an asked. "I'm grounded." Zhu Huntang stared forward depressedly, because Lu Chang'an grabbed her head from behind, so it was inconvenient for Zhu Huntang to look back. "How can you still wander around here after being grounded?" Lu Chang'an knew that this was not the case with being grounded, and it was not the first time that Zhu Huntang was grounded. She had been grounded before, and he often couldn't see her. "I am grounded and can generally only move around the 4 floors of this building that belong to my residence. Part of the 4th floor is actually a hotel area. I can get there through the elevator that the servants use. Here, Zhongqing won't make any snitches, even if you don't leave the 4th floor," Zhu Huntang explained gloomily, "so don't think I'm doing anything bad. This is just my normal life, taking a walk." "Then it seems that I misunderstood you." Lu Chang'an nodded very confidently, then let go of his hand and let go of her head. He was too lazy to argue with her. She was grounded anyway, so this unlucky child. Zhu Huntang is a short person, and the easiest thing to do is to grab her head. "Of course." Zhu Huntang nodded with deep understanding. "All your negative impressions of me and bad actions against me are all because of misunderstandings." Lu Chang'an still nodded and expressed his approval, but if he misunderstood, he misunderstood. In short, he would definitely continue to misunderstand in the future. "You live alone on the 4th floor. This kind of confinement doesn't seem to be much of a deterrent. You are still too free. You should be restricted to the floor of your bedroom." Lu Chang'an said regretfully, "I want to suggest this to your mother. Is 4 floors too free? In fact, the 4th floor is basically the residence of the servants. There are many places on the 3 floors above that are not playable at all. I didn't even build a go-kart racing track. I really like playing go-karts. I originally wanted to design the 3rd floor into a forest park with a fairy tale theme, but my mother thought it was bad feng shui, so she decided to build an aquarium on her own. When I first came here, I was angry when I found that there was no forest park at home. I called to complain." Zhu Huntang said angrily, "Fairies just have to haunt the forest. Aren't you a fairy sheep? It would be more in line with your identity to give you a whole lawn to graze on," Lu Chang'an suggested. Zhu Huntang rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an. She was a cute me, but she didn't like eating grass. "Yesterday you brought 2 women to the rooftop for a naked swimming pool party. Who were those 2 women?" Zhu Huntang pointed to the top of his head and asked curiously. "What is a no-clothes pool party? Are you wearing the same clothes when you go to the swimming pool?" Zhu Huntang felt that he was very clever. He not only teased Lu Chang'an, but also gave him no reason to bully her. Children shouldn't ask too much about adult matters. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. "You can continue walking, I'll leave first." The photographers Lu Yuwang and the others had not arrived yet, and Lu Chang'an couldn't wait outside the door all the time. The women were doing things, especially entertaining things to please themselves, and they were procrastinating a lot. "Why are you going?" Zhu Huntang asked actively. "I want to buy a camera." Lu Chang'an looked at the time. It was best to pick and choose. There were many varieties, good and bad, and the equipment malls where you could enjoy the fun of purchasing, such as returning second-hand goods and replacing them with new ones, had been closed, but the digital equipment stores in those electrical appliance malls you can also buy them at counters, but the prices are a little more expensive, and they are usually licensed products, and there are often some activities to give gifts, which is okay. "I want to go." Zhu Huntang raised his hand high. You are grounded. Lu Chang'an reminded her to realize that she was a fairy sheep locked in a sheepfold, not a bamboo sheep running freely on the green grassland. When I am grounded, if there is a valid reason, I can apply to my mother for temporary relief from the grounding, Zhu Huntang said confidently. I have thought of many reasons before, but she has not considered it acceptable, but I think it's okay this time. Why? What reason did you use this time? Zhu Huntang lowered his voice. When you see how witty I am, you should have thought that my mother must be like a fairy. What I can think of, can she not think of it? She is very interested in you, as long as I am with you. Whatever you do, she will agree to it. Is your mother also a fairy? Lu Chang'an glanced at Zhu Huntang, and then realized that in Zhu Huntang's eyes, fairy was a complimentary word and a supreme compliment. You are indeed witty. Zhou Dongdong often says that he is a witty and brave child. You are on the same level, Lu Chang'an agreed heartily. Zhu Huntang glanced at Lu Chang'an with a smile in his eyes. He finally praised himself. Zhu Huntang proudly took out his mobile phone and sent a message to his mother. Dear fairy-like mother, Lu Chang'an wants to buy a camera, but he doesn't know much about cameras. I'll go and help him take a look at the mall downstairs. Lu Chang'an glanced at it, and he didn't bother to pay attention to Zhu Huntang's arrangement. He didn't know much about contemporary digital SLRs and mirrorless, but he didn't need to know much to buy a camera. If you want to do your job well, you must first sharpen your tools. Good tools are the basic conditions for creation, but in fact, just like painting and writing, the most important thing in the art of photography is never the equipment. The upgrading of equipment has incorporated more advanced technologies. In addition to bringing some convenience and progress, for many people, it is also important to enjoy the pleasure of caressing with advanced equipment, so there is caressing in the photography circle party. This kind of people buy equipment, not necessarily for shooting, but they just like the cold industrial art aesthetic of such sophisticated and high-end equipment. Just like it? When Lu Chang'an wanted to buy equipment, he didn't care much about other people's analyses, suggestions, and comments about cost-effectiveness. He would buy whatever he liked. He had no intention of listening to Zhu Huntang's advice. Zhu Huntang tugged at Lu Chang'an's clothes and waited for a reply. After a minute, the message came back, and the third wife really agreed. My mother is a very powerful person. Zhu Huntang read the message to Lu Chang'an, and also let go of Lu Chang'an's clothes as a reminder. I can't tell whether she is an enemy or a friend to you now. Don't take it seriously, my mother is very powerful. Do you think she will be a mount for you? Zhu Huntang said a little depressed. Don't think that just because you can bully me, you can also rely on me. You are bullying my mother in every possible way. Lu Chang'an touched Zhu Huntang's head and said, let's go. Zhu Huntang didn't say much. Although she wanted to remind Lu Chang'an, she didn't think the third wife of the Zhu family could do anything to Lu Chang'an. This bad old man had lived unharmed for so many years, and there might be too many people who wanted to deal with him. Come on, isn't he still living well? He looked disapproving, presumably not because he was stupid, but because he had strong confidence. After all, he was a man who could make Zhu Huntang bleed. Zhu Huntang is not willing to improve Lu Chang'an's image, but improving Lu Chang'an's image will help regain Zhu Huntang's confidence. If he is powerful, she will not seem so aggrieved and pitiful. Call me. Lu Chang'an teased the fairy every day while waiting for the elevator. Grandfather? Fairy sheep? What? When the elevator door opened, Lu Chang'an stopped teasing Zhu Huntang and went downstairs with her to the mall. By the way, Zhongqing told me a piece of gossip today. Zhu Huntang followed Lu Chang'an while spreading the gossip. Say it. Dongdong's mother was wearing a red dress, which showed off her figure. When Zhongqing went to eat rice noodles, he saw the all-stars were there, and there was another man. The two of them looked at Dongdong's mother's eyes. It looked like her mouth was drooling like rice noodles, so Zhongqing felt very sick and stopped eating. She chatted with Dongdong's mother for a while and found out that the other man was her former classmate named Mi Jiaoming Zhu Huntang. He said with some admiration, "It seems that they all really love Dongdong's mother. Zhongqing has such a good figure, such outstanding temperament and appearance, but he is just a little worse than me. He can't attract their attention." You tell the truth as you say it, don't add any fuel or jealousy, and don't always end it by praising yourself. Lu Chang'an has mastered Zhu Huntang's narrative style. That's for sure. A mature working man like All-Star, Mi Jiaoming can be considered an elite. These people are knowledgeable and well-informed. How can they be like the supporting characters in Xiaobai's online articles, drooling when they see beautiful women? What's more, it flows like rice noodles. Of course, it is also possible that Zhongqing is adding fuel to the fire. Zhongqing also has a record of adding fuel to the fire, but Zhongqing will not say that others are drooling like rice noodles. This is the result of the 8 wives who want to attract more attention and add strong emotional color. Of words. Zhu Huntang is such an 8th wife. As for praising oneself at the end, that is Zhu Huntang's consistent style. If he is praising others, it means that others are only slightly worse than him. If he is scolding others, it means that he is the most perfect fairy. Are they still in the restaurant? Probably not here anymore, it's about the afternoon. That red dress is really pretty. I don't blame them. If it doesn't affect the business of the restaurant, there will be no problem. Lu Chang'an was used to it. After all, this dress is his work. It is conceivable that it can enhance Zhou Shuling's charm. You must know that Zhou Shuling originally the body and appearance are average. Do you want me to send a few people to protect Dongdong's mother? Zhu Huntang said very enthusiastically. After all, I am also the protector of the Zhou Fenglai sword section. It is my duty to protect the mother of the saint. You also used the right idiom, Lu Chang'an said appreciatively, but you secretly promoted yourself from the protector of the holy maiden to the protector of the Kyushu Fenglai sword sect, which is ineffective. Zhu Huntang was tugging at Lu Chang'an's sleeves in a depressed manner. He was really a traitor, and he could even detect this. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 560. The Master of the Zhou Fenglai Sword Sect and the Protector of the Holy Maiden of the Zhou Fenglai Sword Sect came to the digital products area of the mall together. There are brands such as Canon, Nikon, and Sony that are suitable for entry-level photography players and are more popular among young photography enthusiasts. They can also meet the needs of advanced photography and commercial photography. There is also Leica, which is aimed at mass customers with a light luxury attitude. There are not many medium format brands, only Leica and affordable Fuji and Pentax models. Brands such as Hasselblad and Phase 1 are not present, and of course there is no sign of large format. The choice of equipment does not necessarily focus on high image quality and professionalism. All Lu Chang'an needs is a camera that can capture the beauty of a girl. If he chooses according to the lowest standards, a mobile phone will be fine. Of course, in artistic creation, early preparation can save more time in the later stage and can increase the upper limit of artistic achievement. With your status, you should be like the oil prince, customizing lenses from Leica and Zeiss. Zhu Huntang flattered the owner. Like your 1700 mm f4, Lu Chang'an knew that Zhu Huntang was a equipment person. He didn't see any works by her, but she had a lot of equipment. It can't be said that she doesn't have any works. Most of her works are selfies on her mobile phone or personal portraits. They are also made into canvases and wallpapers of various materials, which are everywhere on her floors. For Zhu Huntang, these cameras and lenses are just like her out-of-print rare ancient books, which are props for taking pictures. That's what I use to shoot endangered animals in grassland areas. In order to protect their living environment as much as possible and not disturb their most primitive living conditions, I need such a telephoto lens, Zhu Huntang explained, putting his being associated with labels such as charity, wildlife protection, environmental observation, etc. is a necessary means for a wealthy daughter to manage her image in the upper class. Very effective and popular, especially in social settings where some Westerners are active or are hosts. As for whether Zhu Huntang really loves wild animals and cares about the environment, it doesn't matter. What matters is that she has these labels and is recorded and recognized. But now Zhu Huntang is not very interested in this kind of image management, because it was originally the request of the third wife. Such image management means that she needs to do a lot of things that she has no interest in at all, participate in some boring activities, and not be on the spot. It's relaxing and fun for a fairy to be free and do whatever she wants. It seems that I also have the treatment of endangered animals. Lu Chang'an nodded, and Zhu Huntang often used this telephoto lens or telescope to observe him at the Beilong Center. I was observing Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong is a cute little animal, and you are not. Zhu Huntang refused to admit what he had done. Lu Chang'an still nodded in agreement. Zhou Dongdong is indeed a rare animal. Such edible cubs are relatively rare, whether they are humans or animals. But, my identity is very ordinary. I am just an ordinary high school student. Oh, now I am a college student. I can just buy a set of equipment. Lu Chang'an came to the counter, looked at it, and said to the salesman, I want this camera, this body lens kit, and a 256G memory card. Sir, you know your stuff. This is our new one. No introduction is needed, just this. Okay, then I'll show you the prototype. No, let's issue the ticket. Such cheerful customers are the most popular, and the salesperson happily gave away a so-called gift bag worth about 10 yuan in total. The manager came to inspect the counter and gave away an extra camera bag. After paying the money and inspecting the goods, Lu Chang'an threw away the packaging shell, put the machine and accessories instructions into the camera bag and left. I have no chance to speak, Zhu Huntang said gloomily. I didn't say anything about my suggestions. When you imitated the sound of a sheep, you gave me enough information, Lu Chang'an said gratefully. What message? Do you also understand BAA? Hearing what Lu Chang'an said, Zhu Huntang felt better, so he cutely invented BAA, a language that sounds very cute at first sight. I don't understand, but I know that you are so good at learning how to cry sheep, so your brain must not be very good, so I don't need to listen to your suggestions. Lu Chang'an smiled and grabbed Zhu Huntang's head and shook it. What's wrong with meowing like a sheep? Is it bad for my brain to meow like a sheep? Then you still like to listen to me imitating a sheep? Zhu Huntang was very angry and raised his hand to hit someone, but his head was held down and he couldn't reach it. Who said that? I don't like it. Lu Chang'an let go of her head. You don't like it? Then I will scream. Just scream. What? Dislike. BAA. How annoying. BAA. BAA. It's so noisy. I'm making you so annoying. So Lu Chang'an and Yang returned to Beilong Center. He asked Zhu Huntang to go back by herself, but Zhu Huntang was unwilling because if she had not followed Lu Chang'an, there would be no reason to wander outside and she would be grounded when she went back. Lu Chang'an guessed that Anyuan and the others' filming activities were not over yet, so he decided to go to the restaurant to sit. He hadn't gone to see how the business was going for a long time. Just as she was thinking about it, Nuan sent a message, which was a photo she took with her mobile phone. There were only 4 legs in the photo, asking Lu Chang'an to tell which leg belonged to her and which belonged to Lu Yuang. Lu Chang'an did not see this message. Nuan and her mother are in the hotel upstairs. Zhu Huntang saw the message. She sometimes went to Zonking's room and had some impressions of the hotel-style floors, carpets and sofas, so she recognized them. Then which leg is in Nuan's and which leg is her mother's? Zhu Huntang was very interested in giving Lu Chang'an a test. When Zhu Huntang met An Nuan and An Nuan's mother for the first time, he was a little surprised because of the fairy's knowledge. Lu Yuang's maintenance was amazing. In addition to the temperament accumulated over his years, he also became the external aura exuded by my mother's special mentality, and her fair and tender skin are no different from those of a little girl. But Zhu Huntang thinks that he should be able to tell the difference if he looks carefully. After all, An Nuan often runs like a horse racer. Zhu Huntang knows that An Nuan is a volleyball player. Professor Liu's amount of exercise cannot be compared to An Nuan's. There must be some subtle differences in the shape of the legs or the tightness of the muscles between the two. What did you say? I don't know, I didn't receive such a message. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Zhu Huntang was stunned. It turned out that this man would treat his girlfriend like this. Zhu Huntang laughed again. Although Lu Chang'an was showing off his power and cruelty in front of him, having a girlfriend was not the same as other men. There was nothing he could do about some of the questions and requests his girlfriend sometimes raised. Show me, maybe I can help you tell the difference. Zhu Huntang sympathetically offered help. How can you tell? The lighting environment in the guest room is as big as the CMOs of a mobile phone. There is a lot of noise in the dark. The skin is all trimmed by algorithms to look bright and fair. In fact, there are no details at all. If you zoom in a little, the pixels will be completely blurred. Lu Chang'an he shook his head. If this was a normal SLR photo, sometimes some extremely dark details could be clearly seen through the software by turning back the brightness a few degrees. This was impossible with a mobile phone. To say that mobile phones can replace or rival SLRs is just to use the asymmetry of professional information to fool ordinary consumers. At least this is not possible at the moment. You're not smart. The one with his feet tightly together is Professor Lu, and the one with his feet spread apart must be An Nuan. Zhu Huntang said disdainfully. You men know how to talk about something that looks very scientific. It makes sense, but I don't know the habits of women. It makes sense, but you can't tell for sure. Lu Chang'an shook his head and asked, why must it be An Nuan who has her feet spread apart? Because she is more promiscuous. Zhu Huntang snorted. Lu Chang'an gave her a slap on the back of the head. I recommend the masterpiece Titan and the Dragon King by Rui Suifeng, a hardcore Western fantasy. By the way, Xiahua has also written some Western fantasy before, and my writing is okay, but it is still incomparable to other professional fantasy authors. Comparable, you can take a look at fantasy world works and experience the charm of constructing a world. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 561. Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang came to the Red Soup Spicy Rooster restaurant. If a restaurant wants to be positioned and developed on a high-end, boutique route, a good name is essential. Although Red Soup Spicy Rooster restaurant has no plans to operate a high-end brand image, the name is actually very high-end, with a style similar to Newfoundland, Las Vegas, Portsmouth, Provence, etc. When most foreign place names are translated, they sound very foreign and high-end. In fact, the original meaning is similar to Zinkaipu, Laodohi, Dongtang, Zitang, Jingguanzi and the like. If Zhou Shuling wants to expand overseas in the future, she will name it, Hong Soup La Rooster. Although most people may not understand it, doesn't it look particularly high-end? Using rooster instead of cock is more vivid and can better express the temperament and style of soup and dishes. The rooster is the head of the chicken. The rooster is a very typical animal leader. It rules all the hens, but it cannot judge whether the eggs laid by the hens are its children, because the hens will lay eggs even if they are not pregnant. It is often believed that free-range chickens taste more delicious, which is also true. However, in the breeding process, the breeding of roosters is more meticulous than that of hens. Studies have shown that roosters who feed freely tend to eat less food, which affects the quality of roosters. The size of the egg, and if it feeds freely in an area with sufficient food, its weight will increase sharply, causing the hen to become resistant and affecting reproduction. After all, the hen cannot hatch a baby from an egg laid by itself. Chicken. Grandpa, when you were with Nuan, did you also talk to her about these messy unpopular knowledge that girls are not interested in at all? Zhu Huntang asked about roosters, hens, chicks, and how roosters and hens give birth to chicks. Not interested in knowledge at all. Let's chat. Lu Chang'an nodded. Then how did she react at this time? She said, "Stop it. Stop it." Well, I originally wanted to tell you about the book Chicken Raising Technology in Mixed Bamboo Forest and Pond Ecosystems. This book was written by me in response to the agricultural development policy in the last century and led a group of farmers to become. I am quite satisfied with this book, and at that time, the knowledge related to raising chickens was common sense and was not considered unpopular knowledge at all. Other immortals are always passing on human civilization and witnessing major events in human history. Speaking of which, they are all partners, teachers, and even famous figures in history themselves. How about you? Teach people how to raise chickens. Zhu Huntang looked at the master he followed. Although he always felt that following an immortal would definitely have many benefits, the immortal in front of him was really unreliable. If people want to live in the present, there is no need to live in a certain way. In the war years, joining the revolutionary torrent is the choice of the proud people of the times. It is also good to live in seclusion in the mountains and forests after becoming famous. In peacetime, economic development is the top priority. What happened to raising chickens? Raising chickens you can get rich. Although chickens don't have as many industrial uses as pigs, do you know what excellent nutrients chicken manure is? Okay, let's talk about chicken manure. Zhu Huntang trotted into the restaurant first, leaving Lu Chang'an with no one to talk to about the topic of chicken manure being a good thing. Lu Chang'an was very sorry. Lu Chang'an followed to the restaurant, and when he walked in, he saw Zhou Shuling in a red dress. Zhou Shuling is just an ordinary woman with average appearance and figure. As the saying goes, women should be pretty and dressed in plain clothes, which is enough to illustrate the impact of clothing color on femininity and beauty. The red skirt has greatly changed Zhou Shuling's appearance. Zhou Shuling has always been gentle, and the image of a single mother always has some pitiful points, which makes many men want to protect her and let such a good woman stop working so hard and be a good homemaker in his home. My wife feels good. Today, she is wearing a red woolen skirt, paired with black stockings and high heels, but it makes her show a different temperament, as if beneath her gentleness and coquettishness, her hidden charm and enthusiasm are radiating out. Similar. Lu Chang'an smiled, a very normal smile, just like when he sometimes sees Zhou Dongdong's brain suddenly flashing and showing some witty behavior. But not everyone can look at Zhou Shuling's changes with a normal mind like him. For example, all stars. For example, Zhou Shuling's classmate Mi Jiaoming met when she went to a buffet with Zhou Shuling and Zhou Dongdong. This Mi Jiaoming friend also gave a bottle of wine, which Zhou Shuling had to drink. In the end, Lu Chang'an had to carry one on his back. He carried one back under his arm. Business is better than usual today, isn't it? Lu Chang'an looked around a few times and said to Zhou Shuling with a smile. Zhou Shuling's cheeks were slightly red, and she felt like Lu Chang'an was laughing at her for attracting bees and butterflies. Would you like me to help you drive them away? Zhu Huntang said to Zhou Shuling, a little incredible, they are actually still there. No. They left afternoon and came again in the evening. Zhou Shuling glanced at the All-Stars and Michael Ming, who were sitting together on the other side with some embarrassment. All-Star and Michael's attention is not here, they are eating. Mr. Mi, not counting lunch, you have eaten your 5th bowl of rice noodles this evening. All-Star looked at Mi Jiaoming calmly, you are working too hard. Mi Jioming sneered, Manager Quan, this is your 12th big meat bun, and you also asked for 5 chicken drumsticks. Cough, at least I'm going to go with it. You eat all the rice noodles and this spicy soup. I'm afraid your stomach won't be able to bear it. All-Star pointed at Michael's bowl of fiery red soup. Said. I'm an authentic Juncha person. I grew up eating spicy food. What does this mean? Mi Jioming said nonchalantly. The really spicy food in southern Hunan is our central and western part of Hunan. Juncha has developed land and water transportation since ancient times, and merchants traveled from north to south and east to west. The food naturally mixed the tastes of people from all walks of life, diluting the spiciness of the cuisine in southern Hunan. Who are the people of Juncha? Can you eat spicy food? The All-Stars contemptuously launched the provocation of regional discrimination and regional superiority. Then you should have a few bowls of noodles. Don't just say you won't eat them. Mi Jioming looked at the All-Stars with a stern look, as if he was sure that the All-Stars would not eat the noodles. All-Star expressionlessly took out his mobile phone to scan the QR code to order, and then showed Michael the order he placed. Mi Jioming nodded, Manager Quan, it's already past dinner time, don't you need to go back to work? I've already got off work. I heard that Mr. Mi, although your salary is high in your job, your diet and rest routine are often inconsistent. You have to be careful with your stomach. All-Star patted Mi Gao's name with a hint of concern. Back of hand. I also plan to get married early, settle down, and have a regular diet and rest routine. Now I'm just single because I eat and rest casually, and it has nothing to do with work. Michael's tone was calm, but he had an aggressiveness that could be felt by the All-Stars. Mr. Mi, Xiaoling is already busy with work in the restaurant. Do you still expect to ask her to be your girlfriend and let her take care of your daily life? Let her give up her career, All-Star thought for Zhou Shuling. I didn't mean that, Manager Quan, I think you have misunderstood. Xiaoling and I were classmates. I came here these days mainly for work matters, and I also wanted to help her. Mi Gao Ming smiled and shook his head. That's right, All-Star nodded. Manager Quan, you are the manager of the shopping mall. It is a bit inappropriate to go to the stores you manage every day. If the rumors spread, it will have some impact on Xiaoling and you. Mi Jioming countered. This store is originally a store that has been given special attention by the superiors. I have no problem running here every day. What's more, Xiaoling is single and I am single, what kind of rumors can there be? All-Star said nonchalantly, we are also acquaintances. Xiaoling is busy opening the store, and I am also running up and down. Now the store is running on the right track. I love eating the rice noodles here, do I need to avoid suspicion? Mi Jioming chuckled, and the All-Stars were a bit on a first-come first-serve basis. He also felt that others were here to pick peaches, but he didn't directly say, where were you when Xiaoling was in trouble? Such a face-off. Words. Then Manager Quan, you can continue to eat noodles. I still have work to do, so I'll take my leave. Mi Jioming finally couldn't finish the last bowl of noodles. All-Star nodded calmly. Mi Jioming stood up and saw Lu Chang'an coming in. He was slightly embarrassed, smiled at Zhou Shuling, but left without saying anything. Seeing Michael leave, a waiter quickly went over to help All-Star. After all, the people in the store were more familiar with All-Star. Manager Quan, go and walk around, you are working so hard, Lu Chang'an said with emotion. Xiaoling, goodbye. All-Star touched his belly. As soon as the enemy retreated, his energy immediately disappeared. He felt as if his whole body was about to swell. He staggered for 2 steps before he regained his balance. Xiao He, please send Manager Quan off, Zhou Shuling said quickly to a waiter. The waiter still supported Quan Xing. Quan Xing rubbed his eyes and looked at Zhu Huntang sitting on the table next to Lu Chang'an. Miss All-Star was startled and trembling a little. Come on, Zhu Huntang clenched his fists and made a gesture of cheering for the all-stars. Since Lu Chang'an was very moved, Zhu Huntang stopped meddling and found it interesting. This middle-aged man had a second spring. His appearance turned out to be so high-spirited. The all-stars did not dare to stay longer, and walked out of the restaurant quickly with a much more agile pace. Both of them left. Zhou Shuling also breathed a sigh of relief, sat down on the chair, and then looked down at her skirt. Mi Jiaoming meant something like that. Zhou Shuling felt it, but today Mi Jiaoming seemed to have made up his mind. It was really more because of this skirt. Zhou Shuling didn't expect that she was wearing this outfit today. Mi Jiaoming, when I came to the store for a work meal, the look in Zhou Shuling's eyes was a lot more exciting than usual, much more enthusiastic and impulsive. The man is really, Zhou Shuling is very helpless. This skirt is so figure-flattering, especially able to show off the charm of a mature woman, embellishing her charm to the fullest. Dong Dong Mom is so beautiful today, no wonder they are like little roosters fighting for little hens. Zhu Huntang remembered the topics related to chicken raising technology that Lu Chang'an had just talked to him. It's all you, turns out that's what he thought. Zhou Shuling rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an angrily. Didn't he alter the skirt to look so beautiful? I blame him, but Zhou Shuling likes this dress so much that she has no intention of giving it back to him, or she won't wear it in the future. Give it back to me. Lu Chang'an stretched out his hand. Zhou Shuling slapped his palm, feeling that his palm was warm, and quickly retracted it. Please give Wo Wan Zhangmunpio, the first and last echoes, reflecting the author's excellent writing skills and literary accomplishment, worthy of a monthly vote. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 562. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhou Shuling. Compared with a few years ago when Zhou Shuling brought Zhou Dongdong, who was not very good at walking, to rent his house, Zhou Shuling looked much better now. Although Zhou Dongdong can eat better than ordinary children, it took him much longer than ordinary children to learn to walk normally, run and jump steadily, and learn to communicate normally after he learned to speak. Seeing the mother and children, one large and one small, both of whom were not very smart, gradually getting rid of the life that originally needed people's pity, Lu Chang'an's mouth slightly curled up, and he raised his hand to touch Zhou Shuling's head. My hair. Zhou Shuling felt some warmth from Lu Chang'an's eyes, and she groaned, but she thought of a sentence in her heart. Fortunately, I met Chang'an in my life. The original meaning of Chang'an in this sentence is of course not Lu Chang'an, but to Zhou Shuling, it means Lu Chang'an. My hands are all oily when I touch them. I have to wash my hands, Lu Chang'an said. Zhou Shuling hit him, but quickly raised her head and touched her hair. She inserted her fingers into the thick hair and found that it was not greasy at all. Why are you so annoying? Zhu Huntang also raised his hands to hold his head and touched his hair, because Lu Chang'an also grabbed her head. Zhu Huntang definitely doesn't think Lu Chang'an has any ambiguous meaning in touching other people's heads, whether it's touching Zhou Shuling's head or touching her head. Because when he did this, Zhu Huntang felt like he was petting cute little animals, touching cats and dogs, touching Zhou Dongdong and Protector Lu. Zhu Huntang often sees the look in his eyes that looks at other people like they are looking at small animals, so Zhu Huntang sometimes really doubts that he thinks she is a fairy sheep or a mount, and it is not just a joke. Lu Chang'an didn't wash his hands, but casually pushed Zhu Huntang off the edge of the table, got a paper menu under her buttocks, looked at it twice, and then said to Zhou Shuling, I want to eat noodles, add 2 portions of noodles, add double code, add 3 Zhou Dongdong brand large chicken drumsticks, add 2 lard fried eggs, add a poached egg, beat it directly into the soup, 3 Zhou Shuling brand large meat buns, a cup of iced soy milk, a very large cup. It's Mama Zhou's big meat buns, Zhou Shuling corrected. This is her invention. The correct name is related to the pride and dignity of the inventor. Zhou Shuling invented many dishes, but this one was recognized by Lu Chang'an. He also even the name was wrong, which made Zhou Shuling a little depressed. However, he still ordered 3 at a time, which made Zhou Shuling a little proud, because he came to the restaurant to order, which shows that he really likes to eat. It is not like at home, where she makes it and he eats it. It has nothing to do with whether it tastes good or not. Miss Third, what do you want to eat? Zhou Shuling asked Zhu Huntang very politely and enthusiastically. She always believed that when opening a store on someone else's property, she had to entertain the owner well, just like she used to send Zhou Dongdong to Lu Chang'an send soy milk. Zhu Huntang was calculating how many things Lu Chang'an ordered just now. She felt that Lu Chang'an was also an animal. Although Zhu Huntang usually dines in a variety of dishes that far exceeds Lu Chang'an's, these are all arranged by the kitchen. When Zhu Huntang actually eats, he will only pick a few at random, and Lu Chang'an will eat so much if he orders so much. I want the meat wrapped, 1 piece. Zhu Huntang touched his belly and said. Every time a fairy orders food, she should touch her belly. This is a necessary accomplishment for a fairy to remind herself. Be careful about the growth of flesh on your belly. Isn't it enough? How about a few more? How about a few more chicken drumsticks and a cup of soy milk? Zhou Shuling said with concern. After all, she was the one who often watched the 3 giants dining under the sycamore tree, so she felt that Zhu Huntang should also eat more. 1 meat bun and 1 cup of soy milk. Zhu Huntang said a little reluctantly, forget it, give Dongdong's mother some face. Zhou Shuling went to place the order. After the food was served, she moved the chair next to her to accompany her. She sat next to him and watched Lu Chang'an eat. Zhu Huntang felt that Zhou Shuling was a bit strange. What was there to see when others were eating? In Zhu Huntang's dining etiquette recuperation, it is a bit rude to sit and watch while others eat. The key is that Zhou Shuling watched Lu Chang'an eating, smiling from time to time, as if she was very satisfied, and looking at Zhu Huntang from time to time. Although Zhou Shuling tried hard to hide it, Zhu Huntang still noticed it. When Zhou Shuling saw Zhu Huntang taking small bites, would frown inadvertently, maybe Zhou Shuling didn't even notice it herself. Zhu Huntang didn't think much about it. After all, this was the same person as Zhou Dongdong, who lived with Lu Chang'an. Under the influence of his ears and eyes, Zhou Shuling was inevitably a little abnormal. If Zhou Shuling didn't have a job in the restaurant, Zhu Huntang would rather have Zhou Shuling be his personal assistant, so that she could replace part of Zhong Qing's work. Zhu Huntang hopes that everyone who works for him will be good-looking. Zhou Shuling and Zhong Qing have similar figures. If she wears Zhong Qing's style of uniform and skirt, her temperament will probably be more like that of a gentle and charming little secretary. In fact, in comparison, Zhu Huntang prefers Zhou Shuling's portrait. It goes without saying that she is naturally beautiful. The key is that her face has soft curves and a natural and gentle expression. Unlike Zhong Qing, who often has an expressionless face, as if he is always wearing a mask. Although he is the protector of the saint, but the saint's mother becomes his subordinate, then his status will naturally increase. Dongdong Mom, you see the restaurant is on the right track. In fact, you can just hire a store manager. You don't have to stay in the store every day. Zhu Huntang found such a very tempting reason and started. He also said it. Zhou Shuling pointed at Lu Chang'an and smiled, I don't think it's necessary. I'm idle anyway and can save some costs. I heard from Manager Quan that a store like ours is looking for a store manager. The requirements should also be higher. The monthly salary is estimated to be 10,000 to 20,000, which is too expensive. I paid for this, Zhu Huntang said generously. What does it have to do with you? Lu Chang'an glared at Zhu Huntang. That's not appropriate, Zhou Shuling refused with a smile. What I mean is, I'll hire a store manager for you, and you'll help me work. I need a life assistant to arrange some daily chores for me. It's actually very simple, just to manage the living facilities, such as kitchens, cloakrooms, etc. Yes, Zhu Huntang glared back at Lu Chang'an. Really, You are not looking for his wife, it has nothing to do with him. I can't do this well, Zhou Shuling said with some embarrassment. Yeah, it's hard for you to manage the store. Lu Chang'an nodded. She's fooling you. She talked about the kitchen and the cloakroom. It sounds very simple. In fact, a kitchen is divided into a Western-style dining area and a Chinese-style dining area. You have to manage a group of chefs, soup dishes, grilled steaks, vegetables, cold dishes, and their leaders are the chefs, as well as many waiters, as well as the pastry chefs, bakers. So many people are waiting for you to eat alone. Zhou Shuling looked at Zhu Huntang in surprise. She only knew that Zhu Huntang's family was rich, but ordinary people's imagination of the living conditions of rich people was often limited. I just transferred one Zhang Jiai here. He was the one who found those people. It's none of my business. Zhu Huntang's plan was disturbed by Lu Chang'an. He was very angry and took out the remaining half in one go. The big meat bun was stuffed into the mouth and eaten. Zhang Jiai, manager Zhang from Zuji restaurant, right? He has been to our restaurant and praised our dishes full of praises. He is a very tasteful catering chef. Zhou Shuling was a little happy. That Zhang Jiai turned out to be Zhu Huntang's replacement, a person who prepares meals, will praise the restaurant's rice noodles, chicken drumsticks, steamed buns, etc. This means that the dishes in his restaurant can also be made into high-quality products. I'm going back. Zhu Huntang's plan to improve her status was thwarted. She didn't want to play with Lu Chang'an anymore. Anyway, she wouldn't play with him today. Watching Zhu Huntang leave the restaurant, Lu Chang'an smiled. You still laughed and made everyone angry. Zhou Shuling sent Zhu Huntang away from the restaurant, came back and sat down, and glared at Lu Chang'an angrily. Eat an egg to replenish your body. Lu Chang'an put an egg into Zhou Shuling's mouth to prevent her from talking nonsense to him. In order to run the restaurant, he had to build a good relationship with the third lady and not offend others. Zhou Shuling saw that the edge of the egg was just next to her mouth. He looked like he was about to let go of the chopsticks. He quickly stretched his head forward, opened his mouth and bit down, but he couldn't drop it on the ground. It would be a waste. After Lu Chang'an finished eating, he sent a message to An Nuan to ask if they had eaten anything. Then he packed some rice noodles, chicken legs and meat buns from the restaurant and returned to the hotel room. I recommend a book called The Evergreen Immortal, which is a very good fairy tale novel. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 563. Lu Chang'an came out of the elevator and stood still for 3 seconds. He didn't see any suspicious people like Bai Hui or Zhu Huntang, so he knocked on the door with peace of mind. Lu Chang'an lowered his head to see if the soup powder in his hand had leaked out. The door opened, and he first saw a pair of black stroppy high heels, pure black and soft-colored socks, and a fluffy skirt. Then her breasts suddenly appeared in front of him, making Lu Chang'an involuntarily step back. White fennel. It was Bai Fen who opened the door. Lu Chang'an looked at the room number inlaid on the doorframe. Yes, this was not Zhongqing's suite. Are you, the photographer they hired? Lu Chang'an guessed the reason why Bai Hui appeared here. Yes, Bai Hui was not surprised to see Lu Chang'an, and Nuan uploaded a selfie on the order interface for searching for photography. I accepted the order after seeing it. And Nuan? It seems that Lu Yuwang uploaded it. Since she wants to keep private photos of her youth, selfies are definitely indispensable. Women all like to take selfies, and as long as they are not too ugly to look at, they usually have a lot of selfies on their phones. When An Nuan sent a photo of her and Lu Yuwang's legs for Lu Chang'an to identify, Bai Hui probably hadn't arrived yet. If Bai Hui had seen the two An Nuan, she would not have such an ordinary expression when looking at Lu Chang'an now. She would definitely yell and show off a mysterious and show-off expression, trying to arouse Lu Chang'an's curiosity. In other words, there should be only one An Nuan in the room now. Whether this An Nuan is An Nuan or Lu Yuang, it is impossible to be sure. Normally, it should be An Nuan, but if Lu Yuang insists on pretending to be An Nuan and insists on taking a set of photos, it is not impossible. Women can do anything. Then, let's get some fans first. Lu Chang'an nodded and walked into the room. Bai Hui stepped aside, clinging to the door panel to avoid bumping into him, because Lu Chang'an was holding rice noodles in both hands and walking with a swagger, and Bai Hui was wider than the average person's vertical section. When Lu Chang'an walked in, An Nuan came up to him and winked at Lu Chang'an. It was his girlfriend An Nuan, and he recognized it. Professor Ling also winked a few times. Where did Lu Yuang go? Lu Chang'an restored it in his mind. Bai Hui should have accepted the invitation to shoot and knocked on the door. An Nuan or Lu Yuang opened the door, but were frightened and closed it. Then the mother and daughter discussed it, whether they passed by or not. After all the games and quarrels, An Nuan finally faced Bai Hui directly. Lu Yuang either found an opportunity to run out of the guest room, or stayed in the suite and hid in some places, such as the closed cloakroom, bedroom wardrobe, etc. Lu Chang'an put the food on the dining table. I sent you a message, didn't you see it? An Nuan lowered his voice. An Nuan had already seen Lu Chang'an pause at the door for a while, feeling that he didn't know that it was Bai Hui who came to arrange a photo shoot. No, Lu Chang'an shook his head. In order to show that he had not seen the photo of her and Lu Yuang's legs that An Nuan sent through QQ, Lu Chang'an never logged into QQ again. Later, he asked An Nuan if he wanted information about fans, and he sent it via text message on his mobile phone. At this time, Bai Hui came over, and An Nuan stopped saying anything and greeted Bai Hui, "Photographer Bai, come and enjoy your fans first." "Stop calling me that." Bai Hui was afraid that Lu Chang'an would make fun of her because Lu Chang'an had taken photos of her before. Although Lu Chang'an was not very familiar with the equipment, some of the photos would be blurry because the parameters were not adjusted properly. Bright or too dark, but the composition level, atmosphere control, capture angle, and timing of most photos are not comparable to Bai Hui's. With Lu Chang'an here, she is just an ordinary little photographer. "Lu Chang'an, did you bring a camera?" Professor Ling saw the camera bag Lu Chang'an was carrying. "I just bought one in the mall downstairs." Lu Chang'an nodded. An Nuan was looking forward to the surprise, because she felt that Lu Chang'an must have bought the camera to take pictures of her. As a pretty enough girlfriend, this kind of confidence cannot be regarded as pretentious. But An Nuan suddenly frowned, feeling that she was happy a little too early. "What camera did you buy?" Bai Hui asked curiously. "Is it the same brand as mine? If so, we can use interchangeable lenses." "Yes." Lu Chang'an took out the camera. "The set of cameras you bought, I originally thought I would take pictures of girls today, so I brought 35L and 85L, but it's still inconvenient to exchange them back and forth. Please lend me your 24-70 first." Bai Hui said happily, "I will take some photos later." In the photography circle, there are usually people who say, "My wife will not lend my camera lens to my wife." Lu Chang'an did not have this belief. He waved his hand and let Bai Hui unscrew the lens and attach it to her camera. Many people don't like to lend out camera lenses. If you want to borrow them, you should basically lend them to friends in the photography circle. People who understand the value of equipment are often not stingy, but prone to getting angry. I borrowed equipment, but the person who borrowed it didn't value it at all. He smashed the front lens group of a large aperture fixed focus lens and the UV lens. He thought he would pay a few $100 at most, and he thought it was a stupid thing that he shouldn't care about. There are many. Go to relevant photography forums, post bars, media, and other places to search for this kind of things. An Nuan looked at the shape of the lens, and then looked at the front of the fuselage where Bai Hui had taken off the lens. He frowned unhappily and groaned twice, if it hadn't revealed his attributes as a cosmic-level dirty girl. She is really going to be jealous. Forget it, today is not a good time to look for places to get jealous. And Nuan sat down, took chopsticks, tapped on the table, and started eating noodles. I'll take some 24 and wide-angle photos later. I don't think this focal length is very easy to grasp, but the photos are good, more artistic, and can make better use of the background for creation. Bai Hui paused and said objectively said, it can highlight the advantage of keeping your legs longer. The wide-angle lens can lengthen the picture. Seeing Bai Hui directly complimenting her for her long legs and her professional appearance as a photographer, and Nuan smiled and felt a little embarrassed that she was so stingy just now that she even thought about being jealous. But this embarrassment soon disappeared, because Nuan believed that no matter how delicate you are when it comes to love, she also praised Bai Hui's hairpins, high heels, and skirt to compensate. After eating the noodles, Bai Hui took some photos of Nuan and Professor Ling and prepared to leave. Lu Chang'an, give Bai Fen as a gift. Seeing Bai Hui waving goodbye, Nuan pushed Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui was stunned for a moment. Lu Chang'an glanced at Nuan, and the corners of his mouth turned up involuntarily. Then he turned around, suppressed his smile, and said to Bai Hui calmly, let's go, I'll see you off. It's late at night, you can easily attract people to commit crimes. The temperament is not very safe either. After hearing him praise herself, Bai Hui didn't think much and walked out of the door. Lu Chang'an thought of the time Bai Hui was robbed. Bai Hui thinks that the temperament that attracts people to sin must be because of her good figure. After walking out of the door, Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui went to take the elevator. Bai Hui took the camera out of the bag and looked at it, but couldn't help but be curious. Why didn't Nuan ask you to give it to me? Aren't you good friends? Isn't it normal for a good friend to send his boyfriend to give him a ride for his good friend's sake? Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Bai Hui's cheeks were slightly red, really, and he was teasing others. Lu Chang'an thought of the reason, but he couldn't tell Bai Hui. The person who originally wanted to take the photo today was Lu Yuang, but because the photographer was Bai Hui, Lu Yuang was not able to take the photo successfully. Now Lu Chang'an bought a camera lens, and Lu Yuang's wish was not fulfilled. What reason did Nuan give to stop Lu Yuang from asking Lu Chang'an to take pictures of Lu Yuang? Then Lu Chang'an could only be sent away, so as a tacit couple, Lu Chang'an knew that Nuan's request was to let him send Bai Hui away, and then he wouldn't have to go back to the hotel. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 564. Bai Hui sat down with the camera, turning the wheel with her fingers, looking at the photos taken today. She really wanted to evolve photography from a simple hobby into a skill, just like Nuan also has sports skills like volleyball. Not just a hobby anymore. This was her original intention for accepting the order and filming. Maybe she could change her image in someone's mind in the future. Don't think that she is just a girl who knows nothing but material enjoyment. And Nuan is really photogenic from the perspective of a photographer, Bai Hui commented objectively. Lu Chang'an did not sit down. The elevator had already reached the end while he was talking. He walked out and said, "You are quite photogenic." "Still, I'm fine," Bai Hui responded calmly. She couldn't be happy just because he praised her casually. "Why are you jumping up and down all of a sudden? You're wearing such high heels and you can jump so much. It will look good if you fall down later." Lu Chang'an looked back and reminded her kindly. "No." Bai Hui stopped unexpectedly and pointed to his legs, trying to show that he didn't know what was going on. It wants to jump on its own." Seeing that she seemed to be explaining very seriously, Lu Chang'an nodded and said nothing. When a person is obviously talking nonsense and thinking disorderly, there is no need to correct her or ask her to think about what is wrong with herself. Bai Hui's heels today are indeed a bit high, but the lack of thick solace makes the shoes look particularly bulky. At first glance, people will not feel that her height depends entirely on the shoes. The entire shoe takes up a large part of the height, so then it can give you a good feeling of elongating your legs. Are you more familiar with digital cameras now? Bai Hui was actually a little excited. Lu Chang'an actually had the same interests and hobbies as her. She originally thought that she and Lu Chang'an had basically nothing in common in terms of interests, hobbies, various ideological realms, artistic tastes, and aesthetic preferences. Fortunately, let's read the manual. Unlike most electronic technology products, including computers and televisions, the manual of a SLR camera is not only an introduction to the product, but also includes basic photography techniques. It can be said that the manual of a SLR camera is the instruction manual is most worthy of being read carefully as a book. There are many newbies in the photography circle who often don't read the manual. They like to ask others if they don't understand something with the camera. In fact, it is not necessary. Just read the manual first and understand it clearly. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me, Bai Hui said a little proudly, never expecting that one day he would be able to say such things to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an glanced at Bai Hui, opened his mouth, but said nothing, and then nodded. After all, I've been playing for a while. Bai Hui got angry when she saw Lu Chang'an's annoying nodding gesture again. It's annoying. Really, you can ask me right now if I can answer something you don't understand, Bai Hui said confidently. Lu Chang'an must have played with cameras before, but what he played with should be old antiques. The same film machine and stuff like that. People like Lu Chang'an should be the kind of people who wear fishermen's hats and have a Leica film camera hanging on their chests. The outer layer of the camera has been deliberately removed, and the exposed brass color looks a bit old and vicissitudes of life. Texture. Then I wandered around some streets full of humanistic atmosphere, raising my camera from time to time and taking pictures of the copper ring on the door, the broom in the corner, the branches and leaves protruding from the wall, like an old man sitting still, and so on. Not to mention how much artistic value this kind of street photography has, but it looks very sentimental and classy. Bai Hui just thought about it. If she really said that to Lu Chang'an directly, she might get beaten, or bullied like Zhu Huntang. Lu Chang'an looked at Bai Hui's camera, showing a hint of doubts that needed to be answered. Okay, let me ask you a question. If this camera falls from the roof of Bailong Center, try to find its speed when it touches the ground, Lu Chang'an asked after thinking for a while. Bai Hui felt that she might not have heard clearly. The height of the Bailong Center is 452 meters, plus the 1 meter when you raised the camera. The total is 453 meters. It should be easy to calculate, right? You haven't calculated it yet. Lu Chang'an knocked on Bai Hui's forehead. It's round and big, but it's actually empty inside, right? After all, such a simple question. Bai Hui reacted, looked at his camera, Lu Chang'an, and then at building 1 of Bailong Center behind him, and then stared at Lu Chang'an funny and angrily. Where can anyone ask such a question? It's in the camera's weight manual. I've already told you the height of the floor and your height. The other required values are all common sense. As long as you read the manual, you'll know how to calculate it. Lu Chang'an sneered and dismissed it. Someone who has never even read the manual wants to teach me how to use a camera. You, who said I didn't read the manual? Who would remember the weight of the camera after reading the manual? Bai Hui stuttered angrily for a while, and then said helplessly, as expected of being, a man approved by Gao Dui. If it were Gao Dui, he would say that this calculation has nothing to do with the weight of the camera, but the camera's shape data is needed to consider the air resistance. Lu Chang'an laughed and knocked Bai Hui's forehead again. You are stupid. I still can't believe it. How long has it been since high school ended, and I've even forgotten this. Bai Hui angrily raised her hands and pressed her chest, glaring at Lu Chang'an. But seeing the smile on Lu Chang'an's face not diminishing, Bai Hui also started laughing. It's really annoying. Why does she always seem to have an IQ in front of Lu Chang'an? How about reducing many of the same? Always teased by him. By the way, and, what do you mean by 1 meter when I raise the camera? And you have told me this by my height? I am 1 meter tall. Bai Hui suddenly came back to his senses and discovered the key point. Pouting with some coquettish dissatisfaction, she pointed to her high heels. I'm already wearing 10 centimeters of high heels. Subtract these 10 centimeters, and I'm only 90 centimeters. 90 centimeters is pretty good. It looks like a doll and is cuter. Look at whether you are tall or short now. You can only look like a fairy. Hearing him say that she looked like a fairy, Bai Hui just wanted to be happy, but considering the context, she already had some doubts. Lu Chang'an, in your mouth, does fairy mean to curse someone? Fairies, I think they are girls who are not very smart and feel so good about themselves that they can float up and not touch the ground, Lu Chang'an explained. Bai Hui opened her mouth slightly, and then opened her mouth wider and wider. It turned out that Lu Chang'an had said that she was a fairy several times, a little fairy, and that was what he meant. And Zhu Huntang, he also scolded Zhu Huntang like this. This is what the two little fairies looked like to him. Be careful of a dislocated jaw, Lu Chang'an said with concern. Your tonsils are nothing to look at, so there is no need to expose them. You're annoying. You're annoying. You're so annoying. Bai Hui angrily hit Lu Chang'an on the shoulder with the camera. While hitting her, she looked to see if he showed any intention of changing his words and coaxing her. After smashing for a while, Bai Hui ran out of energy. The camera was too heavy. It turned out that when she took the photo, her hands were a little sore from lifting it. What's more, this was actually a restrained hit, which was more strenuous than hitting someone with all the strength. Because a lot of the potential energy when smashing it was absorbed by her hands in order to control the speed, and she couldn't really smash it as casually as she usually couldn't find a nutcracker and use a camera to smash walnuts. Are you done? Lu Chang'an took the camera over. Let's go, I'll take you back. Bai Hui squatted on the ground and tugged on Lu Chang'an's trouser leg. I did some hard work today, and now I'm hungry again. I have to finish my supper before I go back. Please accompany me. Bai Hui knew that in front of Lu Chang'an, there was no need to act like a girl eating like a kitten. This man liked the way others ate. After sending the Buddha to the west, Lu Chang'an checked the time and took a taxi with Bai Hui to the barbecue stall where they often had late-night snacks. Bai Hui made a reservation on the way, and walked to the upstairs hall with Lu Chang'an, only to see Mi Jioming and All-Star sitting together by the window. The two of them each ordered a whole leg of lamb and ate it, and looked at each other from time to time. Watch each other's eating progress. Lu Chang'an felt that they could not catch up with Zhou Shuling, because before they could catch up with Zhou Shuling, they had probably already pushed themselves to death. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 566. It is easy to feel full just by eating meat, especially lamb. Everyone knows that lamb leg is not the most suitable part for barbecue. Not only does it take a long time to bake, but it is also difficult to get the flavor. Barbecuing a whole leg of lamb, the price is quite expensive. Lu Chang'an thought, if you don't know how to order fat and thin lamb chops, how can you be qualified to pursue Zhou Shuling? Every time Zhou Shuling eats barbecue, she thinks about what she has at home, and what she packs back is basically lamb chops. Seeing them, Lu Chang'an decided to ignore them and prepare to find a private room with Bai Hui, considering that the All-Stars took great care of the restaurant and that Mi Jioming gave them red wine when they first met. If the relationship is not good, it is natural to ridicule them and say some sarcastic words to undermine their confidence, so that they can have fun in life. As a human being, your quality should not be too high, otherwise you will not be able to do as you please and lose a lot of fun. This sentence is a joke, and the premise is of course that everything should be done in moderation and no confrontation. Lu Chang'an asked the waiter to arrange a private room. The private rooms in the store are usually reserved for a group of customers with a larger number of people, but Lu Chang'an is also a regular customer here. He eats more and spends more every time he comes here. Although he is not the one to pay the bill, this point there is still some dignity in arranging a private room. Chang'an, Mi Jiaoming and all stars looked at Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui. After all, men always have their own beauty search radar, and they can catch beauties inadvertently with the corner of their eyes. Although Bai Hui is often judged by Lu Chang'an as having an average appearance and average figure, she still has a high rate of turning heads when walking on the road. Being paid special attention and discovered among the crowd seems to bring her own Billy sparkle. When he saw Bai Hui, he also saw Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui was a little nervous. Lu Chang'an was also present when Bai Hui met the oily-mouthed uncle for the first time. That day, the uncle invited Lu Chang'an, Zhou Shuling, and Zhou Dongdong to have barbecue. It was also in this restaurant that Bai Hui and his classmates were also here, and Lu Chang'an also beat up Guan Yuan at that time. As for the other slightly younger mature man, Bai Hui has never met him, but he seems to be an acquaintance of Lu Chang'an. I wonder what this man will think about his relationship with Lu Chang'an when he sees him and Lu Chang'an eating alone. Maybe they will only be considered ordinary friends. Maybe there would be a misunderstanding, so Bai Hui was a little nervous. The waiter next to him passed by and it was a bit crowded, so Bai Hui had to get closer to Lu Chang'an. Good evening, Lu Chang'an greeted them, and did not ask for any more private rooms. He and Bai Hui sat at their table, not intending to share the table, and pointed to their leg of lamb. You continue. All-Star and Michael were a little embarrassed and didn't think much about it when they said hello. Now of course they knew that Lu Chang'an had noticed their stupidity during dinner. Michael Ming and All-Star looked at each other without moving a word, but there was some tacit understanding in their eyes. Today it's a no-win situation, Michael Ming said to the All-Stars. Let's fight another day, the All-Star also said. Lu Chang'an gave the menu to Bai Hui, and then said to them, are you competing, and the one who loses will leave? The one who wins can continue to chase Zhou Shuling. All-Star coughed slightly, feeling a little embarrassed. After all, he was in his 30s, and he should have been more mature and prudent. However, what he was doing now was not mature and prudent, and he felt a little hot. Yes, Xiaoling likes men who can eat, Mi Jiaoming said with a smile. He didn't feel embarrassed at all. If young people don't do a few crazy and unrestrained things, at least when they can no longer be crazy and dare not be unrestrained, at least there are also memories to comfort me. Although I am just a mediocre bald uncle now, I was also crazy once. You can develop a sense of superiority from those who have experienced it, and laugh lightly when you look at those young people doing crazy things. The key is that if you compete here, the one who wins may not have any hope, Bai Hui kindly reminded them. After the words were spoken, they reminded Bai Hui of Lu Yuan and Qianning. She didn't know if Lu Chang'an would think the same way, so Bai Hui glanced at Lu Chang'an. Following Bai Hui's eyes, All-Star and Mi Jiaoming also looked at Lu Chang'an. Why are you looking at me? Lu Chang'an was a little funny. You first said that they might not have any hope of winning, and then you came to look at me right away. What did they think? Bai Hui was really embarrassed and quickly explained, that's not what I meant that Lu Chang'an is the most edible. No, I mean, you still have to focus on Dongdong's mother. That's all. After some explanations with heart palpitations and breathlessness, Bai Hui pressed her chest and looked at Lu Chang'an again, with a bit of anger in her eyes. Although she was the one who caused the misunderstanding and needed to explain, she always wanted to blame him, whether right or wrong, for causing people to panic. He was laughing and laughing next to him, but he couldn't do it. The look Bai Hui gave Lu Chang'an could easily make people misunderstand that it was useless for them to win over each other, and that Zhou Shuling liked Lu Chang'an. This was especially true in front of Zhou Shuling's suitor. However, Michael Ming and All-Star were no longer young men whose hormones controlled their brains. However, looking at Bai Hui's hurried explanation, he thought the little girl was very cute. "Little girl, it seems that you have rich experience in love," Mi Jioming laughed. "Of course, he can still guide us," the All-Star also said. Bai Hui quickly looked at Lu Chang'an and found that he had taken the menu again and didn't care about what the two old men said. Then he felt relieved and denied it. "I didn't, it's just that you are too stupid. Men in bloody love dramas, they won't have boring competitions like yours. It is said that men have very high IQs when they are in love. In fact, when they really love someone, they are all stupid. If a person is too shrewd, you don't even know what he is hiding." All-Star shook his head. He didn't care. "I don't have a lot of love experience, but after all, I am in my 30s, how can I be hit by Bai Fen? A man who is stupid in front of you is the one who truly loves you. Because he puts all his thoughts on you, so when he does many things in front of you, he worries about gains and losses, and his thinking is different from usual." Mi Jioming he also echoed and said, "He must keep up." Who knows if the All-Stars told Lu Chang'an and wanted to take the opportunity to convey it to Zhou Shuling. Finally, Lu Chang'an came to Zhou Shuling and explained why men's IQs did not increase when they fell in love, but instead decreased. It's impossible for Michael Ming to say it himself. He did these stupid things with the All-Stars. Of course he did it for Zhou Shuling to see. Zhou Shuling had to understand her intentions. Bai Hui wanted to refute them, but felt that it made sense. It seemed like this. Bai Hui nodded in confusion. She couldn't judge because she had never been in love, her boyfriend was in front of her. Silly, or witty, and brave, who knows? "I want 5 skewers of mutton eggs," Lu Chang'an suddenly said. Bai Hui rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an. He looked stupid now, but Bai Hui felt that he was not focusing on her, but on the food. I wonder if Lu Chang'an and An Nuan were stupid when they were together? Would you do something stupid like competing with others to see who can eat more? It feels impossible. When Lu Chang'an and An Nuan are together, it seems to be no different from usual. He will not compete with others to see who eats more. It is normal for him to beat others to the point of being unable to eat. Is it because Lu Chang'an doesn't like An Nuan enough and doesn't put much thought into An Nuan, so he doesn't do stupid things for An Nuan like All-Stars and Michael Kors? Thinking of this, Bai Hui was ready to ask Lu Chang'an something, but in front of Michael Ming and All-Star, she didn't want to ask. Fortunately, Michael and All-Star were already full and had no intention of staying and sharing a table for a meal. They gave the remaining dozen beers to Lu Chang'an's table, and then the two of them walked downstairs arm in arm. He said he wanted to sit somewhere else. Will they go to a bar? Bai Hui heard that they seemed to want to change places and continue drinking. You don't care so much, just order. Lu Chang'an tapped the menu with his fingers and handed it to Bai Hui. I want to eat panlong. Why did you ask for 5 more skewers of sheep's eggs? Anyway, don't try to trick me into eating them again. I want to eat lamb chops, I don't want them anymore. Bai Hui thought for a moment, better let's eat the lamb chops. Are you going to eat or not? Eat. After ordering food, barbecue, drinks, and fruit plates, Bai Hui looked at the table covered with a disposable tablecloth and lay down. His eyes moved around, looking left and right, then landed on Lu Chang'an's face, waiting for him to look. When he came over, he moved away as if nothing had happened. If you have anything to say, just say it. Lu Chang'an started drinking beer. What they just said, men are stupid when they fall in love. Doesn't it make sense? Bai Hui looked like she was consulting. She needed to understand a man's psychology. There was nothing wrong with that, right? What about you? Bai Hui stretched out 2 fingers and crawled on the table. The 2 soft fingers finally crawled to the opposite side. He quickly tapped the back of Lu Chang'an's hand and then retracted, looking expectantly. Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an hesitated for a moment. What is he hesitating about? Could it be that he remembered the stupid things he did when he and Nuan were together? Bai Hui observed calmly. I don't know what to say. Lu Chang'an knocked on the table after speaking. Tell me carefully. Bai Hui was still looking forward to it. She found that she wanted to know Lu Chang'an better as a friend, but she was not very willing to hear about his stupidity in front of Nuan. She was a bit contradictory, but she still wanted to know. Look at people like you, even in a normal state, they look stupid. Lu Chang'an didn't mean to attack Bai Hui, he just told him honestly, but I am different, even if I do stupid things, and also reveal an unpredictable and profound temperament, and ordinary people can't tell whether I am stupid or have ulterior motives. Bai Fen's eyebrows stood up in anger. But it would be a bit silly to answer your question seriously. Lu Chang'an laughed. Then you are stupid too. Bai Hui suddenly became happy. It turned out that when he was with her, he would occasionally act stupid. He admitted it himself. Bai Hui raised her head proudly, slapped the back of Lu Chang'an's hand again, and decided to carry out the plan after eating the mutton chops. He would definitely accompany her to be stupid. It's time to use the little white pig to coax tickets again. I finished coding with my mobile phone in the hospital, and my fingers were really swollen. I don't know how those masters who code on mobile phones manage to do it after so many years. Asking for a monthly ticket. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 567. After the food started to be served, Bai Hui saw a man and a woman leaving after eating and drinking. The man walked away from the cashier with a calm expression, and no cashier or waiter said to him, "Mr. Checkout." The woman walked to the cashier, and the cashier said, "Your husband is also a regular customer of ours. I have a VIP discount card for you. Do you want it?" The woman nodded, took the discount card and registered her phone number, then took her parking ticket and left. Today Bai Hui wants to study some of the behaviors of men and women when they are in love. After her observation, when boys and girls are not together, men like to rush to check out, and when the relationship is close to a certain level, even men when women are in charge of money, they tend to forget about taking the initiative to settle the bill. This is especially true for couples. Bai Hui remembers that when his parents went out shopping, his father often didn't have a penny on him. Even though mobile payment is now popular, it seems like he doesn't even have a mobile phone with him. Thank you for sending it to me, so I'll treat you to this meal today, Bai Hui said to Lu Chang'an, who was eating mutton eggs. No, I still need to pack. Lu Chang'an was still very particular. I know, you brought it back to Dongdong's mother and the others. Last time Zhu Huntang and I ate rice noodles in your restaurant, Dongdong's mother didn't accept us, Bai Hui insisted. Okay then, Lu Chang'an is a cheerful person, and he never gets nagging about other people's insistence on paying the bill or treating guests. The rush to pay at the checkout is quite embarrassing to watch. How can this happen if we are really familiar with each other and have a good relationship? They are obviously proving that their relationship is not good, but they still say that their intimacy and relationship are extraordinary. What's the meaning of this nonsense? Therefore, Lu Chang'an would quickly agree to treat others and settle the bill. As for whether he is really willing, how can Lu Chang'an try to figure out other people's thoughts? In that moment, just go downstairs and wait for me downstairs, Bai Hui said with a slightly warm cheek. Her heart was pounding, she was thinking about something. After eating, Bai Hui touched his belly and said with some difficulty, "Hey, I'm a little full from eating. You can go down first." Lu Chang'an nodded and went downstairs carrying the packing box. Watching Lu Chang'an go downstairs, Bai Hui ate some mint gum, stood up lazily, walked to the cashier to pay, rummaged through the bag like the previous customers, and then looked at the cashier expectantly. "Don't bring cash?" You can scan the QR code to pay. Bai Hui looked at the cashier a little confused, so he pointed to the QR code. This idiot. How did you talk to that woman just now, and how do you talk to Bai Hui now? Bai Hui was so angry. Bai Hui wanted to say something more, but it felt a bit artificial. The cashier was so stupid that he might not understand it, and he didn't know what to say. That Bai Hui wanted to explain but didn't want to, so he paid in cash and also took I got my parking ticket and went downstairs. After leaving the shop, Bai Hui stared angrily at the sign of the barbecue restaurant. Unless Lu Chang'an asked her to come in the future, she would never come to this stupid shop again. Are you hungry? Lu Chang'an saw Bai Hui frowning and looking at other people's signs, thinking that she wanted to cause trouble for them. Unless you have a bad stomach after eating here, there is no reason to cause trouble. No. Bai Hui came back to her senses and then remembered her business. She relaxed her brows, touched her belly lazily, and then pouted. Then let's go. Lu Chang'an knew the general direction of Bai Hui's house, which was not far from this area. Once Zhongqing got drunk and asked Bai Hui to come and take care of him, and Bai Hui arrived quickly. I thought about it. I have classes in the first or second period tomorrow morning. If I go home, I will have to get up early tomorrow, Bai Hui said reluctantly. Lu Chang'an nodded in agreement. I'd better live with my cousin. We can go to school with An Nuan tomorrow. Bai Hui feels that this reason is too good. Mentioning An Nuan can prove that her idea is innocent and simple, and it matches him. It doesn't matter at all. What else could Lu Chang'an say? The purpose of sending her back was to go out and walk to the other end of the corridor, but instead she went around to the riverside to have a barbecue and then went back. Lu Chang'an walked to the side of the road and wanted to stop the car. Bai Hui tugged at his sleeves. Lu Chang'an thought she was going home again. It was normal for a woman's mind to change rapidly. I ate too much. Bai Hui straightened her waist to make herself look even more stuffed, and hummed a few times, I want to walk back. Walking no matter how far it is a common thing for Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an just looked at Bai Hui's high heels. It's easier for girls to wear high heels for a day of shopping than for you guys to wear sneakers. Bai Hui said that she had no problem. Let's go then. Lu Chang'an saw that she was quite motivated. He actually agreed, turned around and walked towards the sidewalk. Bai Hui followed her quickly and briskly. It was so late and so far away, and Lu Chang'an really felt stupid now that he actually followed her back. Lu Chang'an, you are stupid too. Bai Hui followed Lu Chang'an and said softly, like the whisper of the river wind. I am witty and brave. Lu Chang'an said nonchalantly. His will is very firm, but he is not like Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong has been told several times that she is a stupid child, but when she insists on being witty and brave, will be a little shaken, and even realize that he is actually a stupid child. Bai Hui chuckled, witty and brave. Although this was obviously a compliment, it sounded a bit silly. Let me ask you something. When we were in the third year of high school, we were at the same table. At that time, you just moved from behind to next to me. Miao Yingying said at first that Lao Huang was too partial and didn't care where you Saturday. Will this affect me? After all, it is the final sprint stage of the third year of high school. The result is that it does affect me a bit. I am always angry with you. So, what exactly do you want to ask me? Lu Chang'an asked. Do you want to remember the bitter and sweet things? Or do you want to write a memoir or an autobiography? Do you want to start recalling things from the first year of high school? Bai Hui really felt like she was remembering the bitterness and thinking about the sweetness, but now she was angry with him again. Why did this person have no patience at all? Girls just like to talk about the past amidst the gentle footsteps on nights like this. I just want to ask you, one time you drew a swan on the table and wrote a white word next to it. What does it mean? Bai Hui asked with a little expectancy, even though he felt that this guy was unlikely to be satisfied. Own. What do you think? Lu Chang'an laughed. Women are really good at redressing old scores. How long has it been, and even if they haven't let go of the little things, they still keep thinking about them, and they still have to bring them up and ask questions. Bai Hui was reserved for a moment, but decided to be thick-skinned and not be afraid of the feeling of being self-indulgent for the time being. Bai Fen, or White Swan, Bai Fen asked in a low voice. Idiot. What? The three of you did look quite idiotic at that time. Lu Chang'an told the truth, and then laughed, looking at the white anise next to him who seemed to look the same as then, but with a little more cuteness. You, I'm not done with you. Bai Hui finally let go of her reserve and took the initiative to look forward to something, perhaps recalling the warm moments when she was at the same table, but this person was completely uncooperative. Bai Hui was originally following Lu Chang'an, but she remembered that Nuan and Lu Chang'an used to fight and often pounced on him like a monkey, then hugged Lu Chang'an's neck and pressed Lu Chang'an on the desk, the grass, and the chair. The place. Bai Hui jumped angrily. She had to teach Lu Chang'an a lesson today. If a girl's reserve and self-esteem were offended, she would definitely fight back. Bai Hui bared her teeth and claws and pounced on him, but Lu Chang'an nimbly dodged it. Ah! Bai Hui didn't expect that Lu Chang'an could dodge so quickly at such a close distance. He had obviously seen a Nuan deal with Lu Chang'an like this in school before, and it was like a unique move to lock Lu Chang'an. There was a slope by the river next to Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui jumped into the air, couldn't hold his feet, screamed, and fell down the slope. It's over, I'm going to turn into a drowned rat. Bai Hui was frightened, seeing the rolling water illuminated by the street lights on the riverside. Was he going to be embarrassed in front of Lu Chang'an again? Just the next moment, Bai Hui found that her full belly was held by a big hand, and Lu Chang'an hugged her. Bai Hui turned around fearfully, her eyes with colored contact lenses flashing in the dark night. She breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Chang'an's face was so close. Her heart was pounding, not knowing whether it was nervousness or shyness. It was beating loudly, and a light blush crept onto her face, hiding in the night. It's rude, I saved you, and you blew into my face. Lu Chang'an pulled her up and stood upright. How can I, hate it. Bai Hui was secretly lucky. Fortunately, he ate mint chewing gum after eating the barbecue, so he shouldn't have the taste of barbecue, but even if it is the smell of barbecue, the barbecue taste, doesn't it taste like the sweetness of a beautiful girl? Every time you are near the water, do you want to fall into the water and play? Lu Chang'an frowned slightly. Have you ever thought that if you fall into the water, I have to find a place to put the barbecue first and then come to rescue you? And what if the packed barbecue is taken away by someone when I go to rescue you? You. Bai Hui was so angry that she was speechless. She didn't know what to say except stuttering. Look, who is this stupid one? Lu Chang'an laughed and patted Bai Hui on the head. Let's go. Bai Hui raised her hand to touch her head and followed Lu Chang'an with a pout. Lu Chang'an turned back and glanced at her. Maybe it was because the night was so beautiful. Bai Hui looked a little extra cute tonight. I recommend a very professional doctor's article, Surgery Live Room, which is very good looking and can be found on all major rankings. It's the last day of June. Let's vote for the monthly vote, especially the stock friends of Huizi. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 568. Lu Chang'an sent Bai Hui to Beilong Center. He did not go upstairs again. He took the packing box and bought a box of jackfruit meat on the roadside and went back. Sometimes these jackfruit meats are sold for 21 boxes, sometimes for 10 yuan a box. It all depends on the vendor's mood and sales strategy. Jackfruit meat is preferably soft and warm when mature. It is sweet and delicious in the mouth. It is very suitable for diluting the sticky feeling in the mouth after eating the meat. There is also a huge jackfruit fruit on the stall. Lu Chang'an feels that if such a big fruit is peeled open and a little girl pops out, It seems to be more scientific than being pregnant for 10 or 8 years. If such a life form existed, it would be better able to ensure the survival rate of future generations than the current traditional reproduction method of human life on Earth. After all, in comparison, the hard nutshell can protect the baby inside better than the soft skin. However, as a mother, a woman can avoid some crises independently, while the baby born in the nutshell must rely on the protection of its mature peers. This tree of life gives birth to future generations. Lu Chang'an returned home thinking about these biological phenomena that had nothing to do with real science. Shang Guandandan and Zhou Shuling were sitting on the sofa watching TV. Zhou Shuling was still wearing her beloved red sweater dress. She glanced at the TV and then at her mobile phone screen, taking a selfie. Seeing Lu Chang'an back, Zhou Shuling quickly turned off the screen, feeling a little embarrassed because she rarely took selfies. Today, she was dressed beautifully and couldn't help but take a few pictures, but Lu Chang'an might say stinky. "Where's the beauty?" Lu Chang'an said to Zhou Shuling. Zhou Shuling gave him a look. Selfies are similar to the responsibilities of palace painters in the past. Isn't it very common for concubines in the harem to like to call painters to paint for them? However, scandals in the harem caused by painters are also common. This phenomenon can be compared to today's photographers. In comparison, taking selfies with mobile phones can not only avoid the birth of scandals, but also satisfy your own needs. You should encourage them instead of saying they are ugly. Combining ancient and modern experiences, Shang Guandandan came to the conclusion that it was also her responsibility to admonish and guide Lu Chang'an's daily words, deeds, and thoughts. "You know so much." Lu Chang'an put the barbecue in front of the table. "You talk so much, don't eat the barbecue." "I want to eat," Shang Guandandan suggested. "If I were eating, I wouldn't talk so much. If you don't let me eat, I will watch you eat and I will keep talking." Lu Chang'an nodded. What she said made sense. Shang Guandandan really doesn't talk much when eating. Firstly, this is her cultivation, and secondly, she is often accidentally suppressed and speechless by various foods. Zhou Shuling smiles. "Shang Guandandan is so cute, sometimes she looks like a little adult, but in the end she is still a childish little girl." Here Shang Guandandan stretched out her hand and handed her sweater to Lu Chang'an. The thermos flask rolled out of the sweater, and Shang Guandandan quickly hugged it. "What are you doing?" Lu Chang'an was confused. When he entered the door just now, he saw her sitting here holding a sweater. "I want a skirt too," Shang Guandandan said, pointing to Zhou Shuling's woolen skirt. "She is a mature woman, so she should dress appropriately." Lu Chang'an reminded her to be aware of her own temperament and suitable style. "I don't want it to be exactly the same, just help me change it to suit me," Shang Guandandan said to Lu Chang'an while touching the thermos pot. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and nodded. "Why did you agree so quickly?" Shang Guandandan looked at Lu Chang'an suspiciously. "I'm afraid you'll touch all the paint off the thermos pot." Lu Chang'an knew what Shang Guandandan meant by touching the thermos pot. Lu Chang'an didn't want to talk, didn't want to comment, and had no ideas. "Do you want some more wool?" Zhou Shuling asked. "No need." Lu Chang'an shook his head. Zhou Shuling's skin area was larger than Shang Guandandan's. Some of the yarn removed from Zhou Shuling's skirt modification last time could be used. Shang Guandandan waved to Lu Chang'an. "After all, I felt very relieved." "No need," Lu Chang'an said to Shang Guandandan again. Shang Guandandan just wanted to touch his head to show her appreciation, but he agreed to help her change her skirt. Shang Guandandan didn't have any emotions and just focused on the packing box. Lu Chang'an put the packing box in the microwave to heat it for a minute, then took it out. After all, he was walking back, so the barbecue would taste better if it was hot. "Where is Zhou Dongdong?" Lu Chang'an asked Zhou Shuling. "Go to bed early." Just as he was about to start eating, the door was pushed open again. Zhou Dongdong staggered over and walked over with his eyes half open, reaching out to grab the roasted lamb chops on the table. "Aren't you asleep?" Lu Chang'an saw that Zhou Dongdong had changed into a pajamas with small airplanes painted on them, and his eyes were still a little white. It was obvious that he was not very awake, so he grabbed her. Zhou Dongdong shook his head. "I dreamed that there was something good to eat, and I want to eat it." Lu Chang'an grabbed her and shook her for a while to wake Zhou Dongdong up, so that she would not swallow all the bones in a daze and get stuck in her throat, which would cause trouble later. "I'm flying, I'm flying." Zhou Dongdong shouted a few words, and finally woke up completely. Looking at the delicious food on the table, he couldn't help but laugh. "There is really delicious food. You guys eat." Lu Chang'an waved his hand, took a few oranges to squeeze the juice, and pointed to the jackfruit flesh on the table. "Eat some fruit later." After saying that, Lu Chang'an went to the kitchen. "Brother Chang'an doesn't want to eat, then we can eat more." Zhou Dongdong looked at it, pinched the largest rib and ran away. Zhou Dongdong came to the kitchen, and Lu Chang'an was peeling oranges. "What are you doing?" Zhou Dongdong, who had not yet entered the barrier and was running around in the real world, caught Lu Chang'an's attention. Zhou Dongdong stood on tiptoes and raised the ribs high. "Didn't I say I won't eat?" Zhou Dongdong didn't hear it and still raised it high. "It's so annoying." Lu Chang'an lowered his head and bit his ribs. Zhou Dongdong then turned around, holding up his greasy little hands, and ran to eat quickly. After all, although Brother Chang'an didn't come to eat, Sister Egg is very good at eating, and she might eat it. Zhou Dongdong ate all his portion. Lu Chang'an peeked out of the kitchen, then looked down at the ribs in his hand. It was the largest one with the most meat. Lu Chang'an held the ribs with both hands and carefully chewed all the meat on them bit by bit. "It's over. I recommend a good book, Journey to the West, The Great Entertainer by Qingfeng Xiaodao Chang'an of the Tang Dynasty." Report. "What's going on?" "Sir, Master Fang, Master Du, is at war with the three young masters of the Cheng family again." "Oh. What's the reason for this time?" I heard it's because of the issue of who should be the heroine, Lu Sueki or Bagio." Thank you to book friend P0D9 Andy for your generous reward for becoming the leader of this book. Thank you to book friend P0D9 Andy for your generous reward. Zhou Dongdong is so considerate, why don't you give her some chicken drumsticks? Click on the character to show your love or send gifts. You can quickly accumulate star points to celebrate Zhou Dongdong's birthday.